Ngahlala phasi. Let me ask the secretary to read the order.
Debate on vote number 14, Statistics South Africa Appropriation Bill.
Thank you. We will now recognize the minister in the presidency, Mam Chaveni. Order.
Honorable House Chairperson, Deputy Ministers in the Presidency, Honorable Kenny Morolong and Nomasonto Mutaung, Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee of Public Service and Administration, members of the Portfolio Committee of Public Service and Administration, honorable members, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, fellow South Africans. This budget vote debate takes place a day before South Africa and the world mark 29 years to the day that Nelson Rolihlahla Mandela was sworn in as the first president of a democratic South Africa. A South Africa that breaks away from its shameful history of separate development, when one's abilities to have access to electricity, water, education, and jobs, amongst others, were on the basis of one's skin color. A democratic South Africa set inclusive development goals to achieve a prosperous, non-racial, non-sexist, and equal society. The role of National Statistical System in development planning and monitoring. Good, reliable statistics are essential for measuring progress in reaching development goals and provide essential information about the effectiveness of policies and programs. They help governments improve their policies and to be transparent and accountable about the delivery of development results. An effective and efficient national statistical system that provides regular and reliable data is an important indicator of good policies and a crucial component of good governance. Therefore, Statistics South Africa, or Stats SA, as the agency responsible for the production of official statistics and coordination of our national statistics system, has an important role to play in government's attainment of our country's developmental goals, as set out in the National Development Plan. Dr. Sanga Dimitri, in his paper on the role of statistics, a developing country perspective of 2014, he assessed that good statistics are needed to assess, identify issues, support the choice of interventions, forecast the future, monitor progress, and evaluate the results and impacts of policies and programs. As a matter of purpose, the statistical results released by Stats SA must ensure that government gets information it needs to develop policies and programs and interventions and equally inform the public so that they can evaluate the effectiveness of government's actions. Honorable members, Wilson Allen Wallace, an esteemed American economist, once said, statistics may be defined as a body of methods for making wise decisions in the face of uncertainty. This budget vote also takes place when our nation has just come out of the disruption of the global COVID-19 pandemic that wreaked havoc to the world economy, and when we are confronted by the global impact of the war in Ukraine, and on the domestic front, the impact of the energy security challenge and extreme weather disasters. Collectively, these crises have resulted in weakening economic growth, accelerating inflation, and compounding our high unemployment rate. Yes. The test to the nation's survival and resilience is how its leadership and people act with agility to attend to the challenges at hand. To enable long-term, sustainable and inclusive growth, we must work together as a nation as we strengthen our resilience beyond a survival capacity. To achieve better outcomes for this nation, it is important that our thinking, planning, and policy responses be informed by reliable evidence. Therefore, the importance of numbers in times of crisis cannot be overstated. For example, the results of the quarterly labor force survey have enabled us collectively to determine the extent of the unemployment challenge. The quarterly labor force survey is a household-based sample survey conducted by Stats SA that collects data on the labor market activities of individuals aged 15 years or older who live in South Africa. Although reporting a marginal improvement with continuous marginal decreases in unemployment for all quarters of 2022 to 32.7% in the fourth quarter, the quarterly labor force survey has reported an increase in youth unemployment. The increasing youth unemployment has warranted government to initiate dedicated youth employment initiatives under the Presidential Employment Stimulus, the largest youth employment intervention in our country's history, which is estimated to have reached almost 1 million participants by July 2022. These initiatives include government school assistant program under the Department of Basic Education and the employment tax incentive, amongst others. In conducting Census 2022, Stats SA, while maintaining its independence, also partnered with the presidency to support the presidential employment stimulus. Similarly, the Consumer Price Index, or CPI, which the International Labour Organization, ILO, describes as an indicator which measures average changes over time in prices of fixed basket of goods and services of constant quality and quantity that a reference population acquire, use, or pay for consumption. Changes in the CPI record the rate of inflation. The CPI can also be used as a cost of living index. In April 2023, released CPI data that indicated that consumer price increased by 1.02% from the previous month in March, accelerating from February's 0.75 increase. The March increase was the highest reading since July 2022. The previous increases in the CPI have resulted in government action to reduce pressure on households and businesses by not increasing the general fuel levy for the road accident fund in the 2022 budget. Additional temporary relief was provided for 4 months at a cost of 10.5 billion rands during 2022. As announced in the 2023 budget, government will again keep these levies unchanged in the 2023-24 fiscal year. In addition, government's decision to extend until 2024 the 350 rands of the social relief of distress grant was informed by the cost of living index. Broadly, the CPI is a critical measure that South African Reserve Bank relies on to adjust the repo rate. TESS. An independent, objective, and stable national statistical system. Government continues to rely on the statistical results without fear of data unreliability because our national statistical system and statistics office remain free from any interference on statistical methods applied to data collections and the content. This is guaranteed in the Statistics SA Act number 6 of 1999. Such independence ensures that our official numbers have integrity and can be trusted by all. Statistical information is available at all levels of society, including business, government, parliament, civil society, schools, and public at large. It is for these reasons that I implore you to become or continue to be ardent users of official statistics. It is available free of charge for all of us. The government continues to support the stability, quality, and predictability of Stats SA's operations because they are a key determinant of our action for our country's development program. Honorable House Chairpersons, Census 2022 results. Stats SA's 2023-24 work program reflects the drive to ensure that Stats SA is able to deliver the statistics that the country needs. Key to this is the release of the much-awaited Census 2022 results, which is scheduled for the second half of 2023. The census has taken stock of our people, where and how they live. It will provide information on the demographic, economic, and social dynamics for all persons in this country. This data set will become the new statistical information baseline for the country and must inform our planning, policy formulation, budget allocation, monitoring, and evaluation of programs' impact, amongst others, to enable focused attainment of the national development goals. It is important to emphasize that census data will enable provinces and local government to know and understand not only the size of its population, but also the gender ratios, age distribution, levels of education and income, as well as their standard of living condition. This information is critical for the decision-making at the subnational level, including informing the provincial equitable share of the fiscus. Stats SA will be embarking on a comprehensive dissemination process in 2023-24 to inform each province of its results. Honorable members, we will also be able to use this data to know the needs of their respective constituencies. Stats SA will also be releasing various thematic reports based on census data in the areas of education, child statistics, gender, people with disabilities, marginalized groups, and household services. Honorable members, Economic Statistics Program. Stats SA continue to track the developments and changes within South Africa's economy and society in line with the national policy and regularly report on the various facets thereof. In 2023-24, the Economic Statistics Program will continue to deliver key national economic indicators by publishing 230 statistical releases and reports in line with international statistical standards. Stats SA publishes the following key economic indicators at subnational level, namely the Consumer Price Index, annual financial statistics of local government, and non-financial statistics of local government. Key innovations in this area include the introduction of a quarterly statistical release on capital expenditure, reweighting of the producer price index, monthly publication of experimental statistics on residential property index, as well as conducting research on the use of alternative data source to augment the production of official statistics. Honorable House Chairperson, on Population and Social Statistics Program, the Population and Social Statistics Program will continue to deliver key national socio-economic indicators by publishing 53 statistical releases and reports in the 2023-24 in line with the international statistical standards and practices. The following key social indicators are published at subnational level, namely employment and unemployment statistics, vital statistics including births, deaths and causes of death, population projections and migration statistics, poverty and inequality statistics, living condition statistics, and governance, peace and security statistics. On the income and expenditure survey, I am pleased to inform the House that Stats SA has received funding allocation to conduct an income and expenditure survey that collects data on the poverty situation in the country. The survey will be completed in the 2023 financial year, specifically in November 2023, and the results set to be published in 2024. This survey is important because our country is still faced with the triple challenges of poverty, inequality, and unemployment. Therefore, policymakers need to know and understand the scale, the characteristics, and the root cause of these challenges. This statistical information will help identify the extent and nature of poverty and unemployment, and those who are affected, their location, and the extent of the impact. It will also help the country to track if measures implemented are making any progress in reducing poverty and unemployment, including trends and patterns over time, as well as to assess the effectiveness of our policies. Honorable members, Draft Statistics Act Amendment Bill and improving the lives through data ecosystem. We will also be submitting to Parliament for the consideration of the honorable members the Draft Statistics Act Amendment Bill that will propose to reconfigure and coordinate the national statistical system to allow it to better achieve its vision of improving lives through data ecosystem. Stats SA has established a strategy path with a vision of improving lives through data ecosystems. The strategic plan sets out an ambitious path of embracing an evolving data ecosystem that transforms the way we work and the way we lead the statistical system in the country to be responsive to growing user demands for sustainable development. The organization has identified 4 strategic outcomes to guide and elevate statistical development in this country. The first outcome talks about insightful data. This outcome is about the statistical products and outputs that are delivered in response to user demands to bring deeper understanding and insight for informed decisions. It is about information system that monitors the achievements of the goals of the NDP and the medium-term strategic framework and other global frameworks. The highest priority of Stats SA is about sustaining and protecting the quality of official statistics and national indicators. We are continuously updating the integrated indicator framework that includes national key indicators to monitor sustainable development in the country. To this end, the organization will be compiling sustainable development goals country report during the 2023-24 to be presented at a global level on the progress South Africa made. As part of bringing data to policymakers and the public at large in this digital era, Stats SA has developed a goal tracker platform for tracking progress made on the development agenda at national, continental, and global levels. At the national level, this platform will monitor all the priority indicators contained in the NDP as well as the DDM. Stats SA is also investigating the tracking of indicators for infrastructure and investment projects. The second outcome is about creating an agile operating model where business operations are lean, efficient, and flexible. The organization is in the process of innovating and modernizing its business operating model. An integrated operations model is being tested, including the use of multimodal approach to data collection in all household surveys. The cost of doing business will be reduced over the medium term. The third outcome is about creating an interconnected statistical system where people, systems, and technology are interconnected through collaboration, partnerships, and platforms. Envisioning the data ecosystem will be at the forefront of our strategic path as we are exploring partnering with new role players and accessing other data sources in the data ecosystem to further innovate and transform our methods, processes, and technology. The fourth outcome is about transforming the capability of the organization and the statistics system at large. Building a workforce that is fit for the future is a critical priority for the organization. We are finalizing our human resource strategy to build a sustainable work environment. We have also invested in establishing an end-to-end enterprise architecture for the organization and the future data ecosystem. Technology is a key enabler to transform the business operations of the organization. Honorable House Chairperson, I hereby table vote 14 of the Department of Statistics South Africa in line with Section 27 of the Public Finance Management Act, which allocation over the MTF is 2.7 billion in 2023-24, 2.8 billion and 2.9 billion in 2024-25 and 25-26 financial years, respectively. On Program 1, administration is 744.9 million. Program 2, economic statistics, 288 million. On Program 3, program and social statistics, 291.1 million. Methodology and statistical infrastructure, 155.7 million. Statistical support and informatics, 327.2 million. Statistical operations and provincial coordination, 842.7 million. South African statistical system, 44.5 million, a total of 2.691 billion. In tabling this budget vote, I'd like to take note and express my appreciation of the work of the South African Statistical Council, charged with the responsibility of safeguarding the integrity of our official statistics under the leadership of Professor David Everett, for their dedication and continued support in the statistical development of our nation. I also wish to express my appreciation to the Statistician General, Mr. Risenga Maluleke, and the entire Stats SA staff for their continued efforts to ensure that this nation and its policymakers have the necessary data and information in order to face the future with greater confidence and certainty. The period 2020 to 2022 was a particularly difficult one to execute a national census under. On behalf of myself and my predecessor and colleague, Minister Mondli Gugubele, I extend our appreciation of the Portfolio Committee of Public Service and Administration, as well as the Select Committee of Health and Social Services, for the supportive work and for holding Stats SA to account to the South African public at all times. Lastly, we must endeavor to use statistics for insight and avoid what Andrew Lang, the renowned Scottish poet, once said, I quote, "Most people use statistics like a drunk man uses a lamp post, more for support than elimination," close quote.
Honorable Minister, first let me feel welcome, Statistics South Africa, the office that is here, our guests. We appreciate your presence. Thank you. Ma'am Mukweva.
Thank you very much, House Chair. To the Minister in the Presidency, Honorable Chavini, Deputy Ministers, Honorable Kenny Mrolong and Honorable Mutaungu, the Office of the Stats SA, Honorable members, good afternoon. It is a great honor today to stand before this august House to debate the budget vote 12 of Statistics South Africa on this historical month under democratic government. In May 1994, South African Parliament elected its first Black president, our struggle icon, Tata Nelson Rolihlahla Mandela. In his inauguration, President Mandela said, open quote, "Our daily deeds as ordinary South Africans must produce an actual South African reality that will reinforce humanity's belief in justice, strengthen its confidence in the nobility of the human soul, and sustain all our hopes for glorious life for all," close quote. We are living in a new era where the present is changing faster than we designed for it. This is an important indication that we need to change gears and take the effort and courage necessary to design fundamental changes for the future of our country. The importance of statistics as an evidence-based tool informing policy planning and budgeting to develop a country remain a key questions for the state and the market. Statistics assist government to improve its policies and to be transparent and accountable about the delivery of the developmental results. If we have to adapt to a new era where the present is changing faster than we designed for it, statistics should inform policy planning and budgeting in all sessions of our country in order to fight the triple challenges: unemployment, poverty, and inequality. Honorable Chair, reliable statistics are a key element towards better measurement of policies and programs of government. Reliable and credible statistics describe the reality of people's everyday lives. The role of statistics in national development is very critical. Honorable House Chair, the following quote from the World Bank provides a good starting point to my debate on Budget Vote 12 of Stats SA. Why do statistics matter? In simple terms, they are the evidence on which policies are built. They help identify needs, set goals, and monitor progress. Without good statistics, the development progress is blind. Policymakers cannot learn from their mistakes. The public cannot hold them accountable. Statistics produced by the Stats South Africa have been reliable and credibly used to inform the planning and policies of our beloved country, including the production of the National Development Plan, Vision 2030. Thank you, Deputy Chief Whip. Honorable members, in one of his State of the Nation address, His Excellency President Cyril Matamela Ramaphosa stated that, open quote, "The path we choose now will determine the course for future generations," and further said, "That is why we are taking steps to strengthen our democracy," close quote. Such a path should solely be based on the foundation of what official statistics guides us as a nation in terms of addressing socio-economic challenges encountered by various spheres of government. Honorable House Chair, load shedding is another major challenge confronting us, which negatively impacts businesses, disrupts households, compromises the provision of social services, and affects safety and well-being of our people. Access to electricity in South Africa was reported at 84.39% in 2020, as the data was sourced from official statistics produced by Stats SA. Only 20% of Black South Africans had access to electricity in 1994. These statistics reflect the major transformation of the democratic ANC government. As much as we are all concerned about the load shedding, our people have access to electricity, and we hope with the new introduction of the Minister of Electricity, we'll be able to reduce the load shedding and ultimately end it. Honorable House Chair, Stats SA remains a beacon of hope in transforming and changing agenda to facilitate and to drive the culture and organizational change required to implement the new strategic direction. In 2020, Stats SA embarked on a National Census 2022 to assist the country in compiling a numerical profile of South Africa. As the African National Congress, we are pleased about the progress made in collection of data and analysis of Census 22 data, despite collecting census under the tough health conditions brought by COVID-19 pandemic. We congratulate the Statistician General, Mr. Maluleka, and the team for navigating and ensuring such an important project is carried through. The report will be published in July. This will provide us with the data of macro and micro socio-economic shifts of our society and the country. Honorable members, the use of technology during census data collection should be the future in order to reduce all risk associated with paper collection of data. We are pleased about the development regarding census 2022, where the majority of South Africans witnessed the first population count to introduce digital census through the use of online and telephonic data collection platforms, which allowed respondents to complete the census questionnaire on their own. Digitalization enables the collection of population data at a faster pace with an unprecedented level of detail. Honorable House Chair, we are quite aware of the historical budget shortfalls confronting the department, especially on the compensation of employees' budget. Even though the National Treasury and Parliament have approached an additional budget for the compensation of employees over the midterm, the current allocation is not sufficient to retain highly specialized professionals. The success of the attainment of the objectives of the National Development Plan depends solely on the credible and timeless statistical data to inform planning policies and budget allocations, which will be translated into service delivery of public services. We therefore appeal to all planners, policymakers, decision makers, and leaders in our country to study the Census 2022 results once published to plan according to the challenges confronting our society on the ground. Honorable House Chair, in our deliberations as the Portfolio Committee with the Stats Essay and the budget vote, we observe that the historical budget shortfall or resource constraints continue to negatively impact on the State Essay, on the State Essay's ability to attain its set objectives. That the State Essay business model emphasizes digitalization. The committee further supports the establishment of interconnected statistical system for better coordination of various statistics produced in the country. We noted that the entity confronted with unreliable of state information technology service. We have recommended that Stats SA should expeditiously finalize the table amendment of the Statistics Act 1999 to drive statistical reform in the country timelessly to Parliament. That the Stats SA should consider adopting a program aimed at capacitating all government departments and local government on key statistical findings, focusing on outcome and impact measurement to assist all spheres in planning, policy making, evidence-based decision making and budgeting. The Stats SA under the Minister in the Presidency and together with the Department of Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation should encourage departments to use statistics releases. Stats SA should leverage the use of technology. Stats SA should ensure that an integrated indicator framework on the district development model, that the vacancy rate of 20.7% has to be drastically reduced by undertaking a recruitment drive. With this, let me take this opportunity to take the leadership of Stats SA under the stewardship of Minister in the Presidency, Ms. Kumbuzo Chavini, the chairperson of the Statistical Council, and the SG, Mr. R. Maluleka, and the entire Stats SA doing their great work for the country throughout production of statistics. Furthermore, we appreciate members of the Portfolio Committee in conducting effective oversight over Stats SA and ensure that the department provide the country with quality, reliable and accurate official statistics. The African National Congress support budget vote 12 of the Stats SA to continuously collect data and compile statistics that guides government, business and non-government sectors on the daily activities. I thank you, House Chair.
Thank you. Mhlonishwa Mbele, ithuba ngelakho.
Ngiyabonga Salonga Pambil. Stats SA stands apart from most other state entities and organs as one of the few islands of relatively good management and performance by most indicators, in a sea of chronic public sector mismanagements, poor governance, and failures to fulfill policy and legislative mandates. The organization broadly demonstrates adequate activity and progress, but remains heavily constrained by financial and human resource shortfalls. Firstly, with a budget decrease of almost 20% in real terms for the 2023-24 financial year. And secondly, high staff turnover owing to a persistent skills drain and a high vacancy rate of up to 20%. Its production of information products has declined over the years, with the number of survey reports having been delayed or discontinued in light of this limited funding and personnel. And not to forget the shambles that was the early phases of Census 2022. It remains to be seen whether
Chairperson, there's no sound.
have said.
There's no sound on the Zoom.
As has been said previously by previous members, statistics are important to provide relevant and accurate evidence-based information for social stakeholders and institutions in order to facilitate proper planning, decision-making, and monitoring and evaluation of government policies and projects. In light of the government's supposed and declared commitments to evidence-based policymaking and program implementation, statistics should serve as primary indicators of what is working or what needs to be changed or improved. So when statistics continually reveal stubbornly high and increasing unemployment, that should be a signal that we do not have an enabling environment for job-creating investments and economic growth, which should then compel a review of government policy to identify those key adverse factors that constrain and disincentivize hiring and investments, as well as to adapt and innovate where needed. In converse, Chairperson, when stats show an area of good performance, for example, when the Western Cape was demonstrated to be the only province that had job creation during a quarter last year, that should be a signal to inquire further and deeper as to the reasons and factors causing this positive outlier performance, to see whether and how the lessons and insights can be shared and implemented wider. On this point, Chair, let me be clear that when I refer to the good results of the Western Cape in context of this debate, it is not simply to beat my party's political drum or to engage in self-promoting chest thumping because it's a dear-governed province, as I'm hearing now, some ANC members hear with cynical ears when they hear what I'm saying. Chair, I really do mean that the highlighting of such developments should be taken and used as an opportunity for learning and gaining insights that can help other provinces to improve their governance and service delivery for the benefit of all our citizens. And I'm sure I can speak confidently for Premier Ellen Wendy and his provincial cabinet colleagues when I say that the approach taken, policy innovations implemented, and program work done by Western Cape governments in pursuit of governance and service delivery excellence is rooted in the intention of being a benchmark-setting example of best practice and ideas that will benefit the whole country when shared and adopted. Chairperson, this need not be perceived as a threat to the ANC, but rather taken as an invitation. It is clear to all that there are many shortcomings and failures in almost every area of government service delivery, from load shedding and rising crime to deepening poverty. And so what is needed is radical reform to overhaul public sector operations. And key to such a new chapter will be to promulgate a comprehensive suite of investment attracting and job creation promoting exemptions from overly burdensome red tape in order to ease the burden of doing business, lower barriers to compliance, and encourage investments and entrepreneurship. Finally, one of the stated priorities of Stats SA in its 5-year plan is to drive legislative reform, which dovetails and aligns perfectly with this imperative for a vigorous shakeup of the status quo. And so we encourage Stats SA to pursue this proactively, stridently, without fear or favor, being led only by pure stats and information as indicators and signposts of the direction of fundamental changes that need to happen going forward. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Mayor Komani, sebaka ke sa hao.
Let us acknowledge and greet the leadership of the EFF led by the capable Commander-in-Chief and the President. House Chair. This vote 12 ANC, and not vote 12, vote 14. And we don't know whether you are using this vote to legitimize load shedding. That being said, House Chair, an entity like Stat SA exists for a strategic and practical purpose. Businesses, civil society, political parties, and many other stakeholders rely on competent and well-resourced Stat SA to give us credible data to make decisions, implement programs, and assess the impact of these programs we implement. We need reliable information to know how to allocate limited resources when you table a budget. However, it appears that there is a well-coordinated and deliberate effort to collapse and reduce Stats SA into a weak institution. Since we arrived here in Parliament in 2014, we have consistently raised our concerns with all the budget cuts that SA has suffered. The organization has a more than 20% vacancy rate because it cannot compete with the private sector to attract the best social scientists, economics, planners, geographers, statisticians, and many other professionals. It needs to continue to do its work. In the recent past, we have witnessed many committed professionals opting to leave for the private sector instead of serving the country in such noble professions because of the freezing of appointments and promotions because of budget cuts. House Chair, we know that the former statistician general, Dr. Palili Hotla, left Stats SA because he was vocal about this situation. He stood up against political evangelism when the ANC government wanted Stats SA to hide their failures despite the fact of high levels of unemployment, inequality, poverty, alarming gender-based violence, and many other social ills. He stood up against senseless budget cuts that render Stats SA useless. For the longest of time, Stats SA had to cancel and postpone poverty studies. They don't want a proper study of poverty in a country where more than 18 million beneficiaries of social grants, more than 11 million of unemployed people, and many millions who are not accounted for in education, employment, and training. In 2021, members of Stats SA Council threatened to resign because of this budget cuts. When Minister of Finance tabled his 2022 budget, we were told that there is money that will be made for Stats SA to conduct an income and expenditure survey. This is the survey that will be able to paint a clear picture of poverty. We were also told that Stats SA will be able to hire new people and promote those already inside its ranks. We find this very difficult to believe when the proposed budget today for the 2023-24 financial year is essentially going back to the budget of 2.6 billion, the same as it was in the financial year 2020 and 2021. We don't have a good understanding of the levels of hunger and the people who go to sleep with empty stomachs because Stats SA does not have enough funding to do proper surveys. We don't understand the level of gender-based violence patterns and character because Stats SA does not go into that space. This is made worse by police statistics that depend entirely on the dockets. There is a lot we don't know that Stats SA should be telling us. When we say we reject this proposed budget for Stats SA by the Minister of Finance, we don't mean that we don't want any money allocated to Stats SA. We mean that we reject the budget cuts and the failure to allocate adequate resources to Stats SA. We should not be
We
using
expected that.
this
You are
budget vote.
always rejecting. Actually, you are confused when.
Yeah, we are rejecting this budget
Oh,
because you
oh.
deliberately want to do away with Stats SA. You want to victimize people. You want to legitimize the
Continue
load
to
shedding.
confuse.
Therefore, we cannot support this budget vote. Thank you very much.
Sorry for that, Ma'am Komani. Honorable Piri, what you just did, actually you can be immediately taken off this platform. You don't do that. You don't do that, Honorable Piri. You repeat that again, you'll be removed from the platform. Thank you. No, I never did that to you. Why do you want me to do that to her? Honorable members, we now move and call on Mr. Hlengwa.
Honorable House Chairperson, thank you very much. I think at the outset, one must thank the Statistician General and his team for continuously doing good work under very difficult circumstances, particularly noting the budgetary constraints which they've had to endure and will continue to endure over the MTEF. But having said that, we have got full confidence in the work that they do, and we place a heightened level of reliance and credibility on it to ensure that it informs planning. House Chairperson, the saying goes, failing to plan is planning to fail. They are the tools which have arisen out of the statistics South Africa has, yet government seemingly is unable to respond to the challenges. We've heard a lot of song and dance of sloganeering, the triple challenge of poverty, inequality, and unemployment. Yet, when it comes to crunch time, nothing actually happens. So statistics remain, or rather, Stats SA remains one of South Africa's most important departments in aiding government to plan, to make systematic decisions based on data. This department's work often provides South Africa with a sobering overview of government's performance and an understanding of the reforms that our country so desperately needs. For example, in the last quarter of 2022, this department has once again reported that women are the most vulnerable in the labor market. Compared to men, women are more likely to remain unemployed for longer periods, which eventually affects their chances of being employed in the future. In this respect, in quarter 4 of 2022, 80.6% of women were in long-term unemployment compared to their male counterparts with 76.1%. The incidence of long-term unemployment among women has consistently been higher than the national average. This therefore leads to the question, what has government been doing to address this? Why do we have a department that reports on stats on the very glaring inequalities between men and women, yet the government is not actively working to decrease these statistics. It is completely and utterly outrageous that we dedicate days and months to a celebration of women, yet when the majority of these women find themselves in conditions of unemployment, dire poverty, and inequality. The quarterly outputs issued by this department should by no means be taken as a rubber stamp activity. However, this is unfortunately our current reality. Yet again, we will also come here and rubber stamp a budget that is not informed by the needs of Stats SA. Will we ever reach a point of symmetry between government's commitment to eradicating gender inequality and decreasing the long-term unemployment of women? This is just but one area of the many areas where Stats SA has pointed us to the extent of the challenges that the country faces. It seems as if government is not tending to statistics with the necessary level of seriousness that is required. For example, in the first quarter of 22-23, 6,422 people were murdered, but the crime response does not match this, which is an increase of 664 murders compared to the same period when the country was placed under the COVID-19 lockdown levels 1 and 2. So we contend that as the IFP, the statistics are a necessary tool for planning and to also gauge the extent to which government is committed to its own commitments or not. Currently, it's clear that it is not. The question becomes, it's good and well to have the stats, but what are we doing with them? How are we utilizing them? Are we actually not engaged in an exercise where we are happy to have the information and then it ends there? So, Honorable House Chairperson, the IFP is happy to support this budget vote, but also notes the fact that Stats SA needs more money in order for it to be effective and efficient. In conclusion, Chair, I'd like to end off where the Minister started off on a totally different note. Minister, it was good to hear you refer to the Ukraine war because there's been a heightened level of denialism this side, calling it a conflict. So it was good to hear you call it exactly what it is. I thank you, House Chair.
Thank you. Agbare lid Dana, dis u geleentheid nou.
Baie dankie, agbare huisvoorsitter. Voorsitter, Statistiek Suid-Afrika is een van die belangrikste entiteite in die ganse regeringsportefeulje. Ons is tans besig met begrotingspostdebatte oor elke departement en sy entiteite se begrotings. 'n Oefening wat onmoontlik en rigtingloos sou gewees het sonder die onderliggende syfers en statistiek wat begrotingsbeplanning moontlik maak. In ag genome dat beplanning net so goed kan wees soos die syfers en statistiek waarop dit gebaseer is dit uiters belangrik dat hierdie entiteite behoorlik befonds word en oor die nodige hulpbronne en kapasiteit beskik om geloofwaardige en getroue uitsette te lewer. Dit is daarom kommerwekkend dat Statistiek Suid-Afrika steeds grootliks onderbefonds word. 'n Historiese probleem wat jaar na jaar geïdentifiseer en bekla word, maar wat net eenvoudig nie na behore aangespreek word nie. Ten spyte van 'n addisionele allokasie deur nasionale tesorie van R144 miljoen vir die 2022-23 boekjaar en R132 miljoen oor die mediumtermyn om hierdie historiese tekort aan te spreek. This budget shortfall has had such a serious impact on the work of Stats SA that the income and expenditure survey has not been conducted since 2015 due to budget constraints. This means that for the past 8 years, government, private sector businesses, NGOs, educational institutions, and the like have been flying blind with regards to statistics around poverty levels in the country. How can departments do proper planning and budgeting without accurate information about one of the greatest obstacles faced by the majority of South Africans? We take note of an additional allocation of 206 million to now conduct the income and expenditure survey, and would like to see this information being made available according to the set timeline without any delays, such as was seen or is being seen, I should rather say, with the 2022 census. 8 years have been wasted already. We cannot afford any more. Furthermore, Stats SA is not spared the countrywide critical skills shortage that we are faced with. The vacancy rate of more than 20% is alarming and a problem that has also been identified numerous times. Die uittog van kundige ervare personeel wat oor die algemeen die kwaliteit van staatsdiens en administrasie in Suid-Afrika kniehalter, is ook baie duidelik by Statistiek Suid-Afrika te sien. Sedert aanvanklike begrotingsbesnoeiings wat sowat 7 jaar gelede begin het, is hierdie as 'n probleemarea geïdentifiseer. Die addisionele allocasie van R44 miljoen vir die vorige boekjaar het duidelik nie hierdie tekort aangespreek nie en dit verg dringende aandag. Die doelwit wat gestel is om vakante poste te vul en van alternatiewe diensverskaffers gebruik te maak in die plek van onder meer die nuttelose Staatsinligtings- en Tegnologieagentskap word deur die ANC se eie regeringsbeleid gekelder. Wetgewing soos die wysigingswet op diensbillikheid sal in teenstelling met artikel 217 van die Grondwet verhoed dat Statistiek Suid-Afrika kompeterende diensverskaffers kan aanstel. Gedwonge raskwotas in plaas van meriete sal personeelaanstellings belemmer en hierdie leemte sal volgende jaar weer in hierdie huis met die volgende ronde begrotingspostdebatte bespreek word. Honourable House Chair, as I've just mentioned, Stats SA was confronted with the unreliability of the State Information Technology Agency, or SITA, as is the case with several government departments on a daily basis. This is also a previously identified problem. Why is SITA being allowed to waste government resources and time in such an egregious manner? This is unacceptable. Voorsitter, ek het dit verlede jaar gesê en ek sê dit weer. Statistiek Suid-Afrika is een van die enkele staatsentiteite wat nog 'n mate van geloofwaardigheid in die oë van die mense van Suid-Afrika het. En slegs akkurate en tydige data-uitsette sal hierdie geloofwaardigheid handhaaf. Dieselfde probleme word egter jaar na jaar geïdentifiseer, maar nooit regtig aangespreek nie. Sonder betroubare data kan geen effektiewe beplanning plaasvind nie. ANC-beleid en die onvermoë van reeds gevalde entiteite en departemente is besig om hierdie entiteit saam met hulle af te trek. Dit moet nou aangespreek word voor dit te laat is. Ek dank u.
Thank you. Let me just confirm that the ACGP is not on the platform. We proceed now and call the Deputy Minister in the Presidency, Honorable Morolong.
Anke go leboge motlotlegi modulasetulo wa ntlo ya rona e kgethegileng. Honorable Minister in the Presidency, Ms. Kumbuzo Nchaveni, Honorable Deputy Minister in the Presidency, Ms. Nomasonto Mutaung, Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Public Service and Administration, Honorable members, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Statistics South Africa is a preeminent data collection is tasked to collect, produce, and disseminate our statistical data so as to allow society properly to assess the success or otherwise of our socio-economic imperatives, helping us to answer the question, are we progressing or regressing? The answer to which question must be embedded in our national work to transform and improve the condition of the living standards of our population. In this regard, government continues to rely on the statistical products of Stats SA to elaborate and implement policy interventions that seeks to improve the living standards of all our people. One such policy intervention is the Presidential Employment Stimulus Package, which uses much of Stats SA statistical releases to evidence the suite of interventions within the package. Honorable members, Nobel laureate Thomas Piketty, writing in his book, Capital in the 21st Century, makes a salient observation that social scientific research is and will always be tentative and imperfect. It does not claim to transform economics, sociology, and history into exact sciences, but by patiently searching for facts and patterns and analyzing the economic, social, and political mechanisms that might explain them, it can inform democratic debate and focus attention on the right questions. It can help to redefine the terms of debate and mask certain preconceived or fraudulent notions and subject all positions to constant critical scrutiny. The SSA, amongst others, is a critical institution in the construction of our developmental state and its attended national democratic society. Consistent with the observation that we cited above, as made by Piketty, we hold strong a view that statistics is an integral part of our democracy, one without which would be akin to driving blind in a busy arterial metropolitan road. The work that the SA does makes an enormous contribution to improve the quality of democratic debate, guide investment decisions, and help improve accountability by providing reliable indicators that are especially vital for data-driven decision-making, both within and without the public sector. The collection, production, and dissemination of these statistical products is equally important for the legislators assembled in this August Democratic Assembly of our people and their representatives, essentially helping us to frame the terms of debate and mask certain preconceived or fraudulent notions and subject all positions to constant critical scrutiny. For its part, the National Development Plan elaborates our national ambitions and targets to which we aim, helping us to broadly define the living standards against which our socio-economic progress can be tracked, assessed, and measured. Honorable House Chair, COVID-19 as well as other natural disasters expose gaps in our basic information management and statistics system in the country. To plug these gaps, robust and agile information management systems are continuously required. If our information systems fail or are inadequate, we would be flying blind, which may lead to a disastrous crash of our national economy, in turn, leading to loss of lives and livelihoods. Honorable members, it is a point to remember, however, that robust information systems are not free. They require time, attention, and money, yet they are priceless when informed decisions that save lives are taken and implemented. Without good information, the country will not be able to track its economic, social, or health recovery or progress. Data has become a major source of economic competitiveness globally, offering enormous opportunities for citizens, businesses, government to make better informed decisions. The world now increasingly relies on data to create new knowledge and insights, to better understand the past, the current, and predict the future. Economic growth, job creation, characteristics of the population, social living conditions, health, education, and crime are some indicators on which statistical data provide empirical evidence and objective insights to guide policy formulation and implementation. Armed with these evidence, as collected, produced, and disseminated by SSA, will certainly unmask certain preconceived or fraudulent notions and subject all positions to constant critical scrutiny so that we fruitfully hold each other accountable. Honorable House Chair, the past 2 years has seen our operating model being disrupted by COVID-19 pandemic and lockdown restrictions. For all household surveys in the 2023-2024 financial year, face-to-face data collection will resume. However, the organization will continue to deploy and integrate the innovative methodologies that were deployed during the Census 2022 data collection into the operating model of StatSA. Investment into the modernization of our statistical value chain to increase our efficiency, data security, and data quality will be our priority for the ensuing MTEF budget cycle. Honorable members, StatSA envision its socio-economic role in our society as improving lives through data ecosystems. As we all know, the technological advances that have been made in the last couple of years demands of us to continually invest in new competing technologies, making it easier for us to collect, produce, and disseminate our statistical products. Optimization, partnership, and innovation will be the hallmarks of our march towards a transformation of the production, coordination, and use of statistics. The increased need for collaboration between Stats SA, other organs of state, and the private sector is critical as we build the data ecosystem. The use and appreciation of official statistics in decision-making has become even more critical in the changing data landscape. In this regard, our office will elaborate an outreach program with the Office of the Statistician General to communicate the need to embed statistics in the decision-making process of both public and private institutions. Honorable House Chairperson, the highest priority of Stats SA is about sustaining and protecting the quality of official statistics and national indicators. Our National Statistics Agency is committed to continue to deliver its suite of official statistics, even amidst a challenging and declining resource environment. Our task ahead in achieving our strategic intent and culture of innovation, agility, and collective leadership that embraces change and diversity in thought and practice. Honorable members, I invite you to join me in appreciating the sterling work done by Stats SA team led by the Statistician General, Mr. Risenga Maluleke. We would also like to extend our appreciation for the role that the South African Statistics Council, under the leadership of Professor David Everett, continues to play in safeguarding our official statistics. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy Minister. I would like to indicate if the UDM is on the platform. If not, I call upon the Honorable Notnago.
Honorable Chairperson, my apologies. I just want to remind the table that as the Chief Whips Forum, we agreed that all speakers in a particular debate must be in the House physically. So you don't have to call them if they are not here unless a prior notice was sent. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Chief Whip.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Minister in the Presidency, Deputy Ministers in the Presidency, our Deputy Chief Whip, Office of Stats South Africa, and members of Parliament, good afternoon. The ANC in its 55th National Conference has prioritized monitoring and evaluation to ensure government plans are implemented effective and to enable interventions where challenges exist. As the ANC Parliamentary Caucus, we have raised our concerns of the lack of effective measurement of outcomes of policy implementation. Through the work of Statistics South Africa and through expanding their statistical data to various impactful areas, we will close this critical information gap. Measurement of outcomes and impact of programs is critical for enhanced oversight. Key to the task of government is creating a better life for all South African citizens. This is a commitment underpinning many of our strategic documents and election manifestos of the ANC. It's important, therefore, to recognize Statistics South Africa playing a role in this historic mission in its own way and with expertise. For the ANC, it's important to recognize Stats South Africa fulfilling its strategic vision of, and in brackets, improving lives through data ecosystems. Ultimately, Statistics South Africa must be a dynamic and modern entity empowered to transform people's lives, an updated, dynamic and advanced data ecosystem which should be a basis for policy making and decision making by private and public sectors. Honorable members, the department derives its existence from Statistics Act of 1999 and has a responsibility to advance the production, dissemination, use and coordination of official and other statistics to assist organs of state, businesses, other organizations and the public in planning, monitoring, policy development and decision-making. The Act also requires that the department coordinate statistical production among organs of state in line with the purpose of official statistics and statistical principles. Honorable House Chair, one of the biggest concerns for the ANC is to see the programs of government changing people's lives in a tangible way for the better. And this can be done when there is an empowered State South Africa with the resources and skills that it needs to assess the impact of policies and the state of various services. It is an entity such as State South Africa that must help South Africans from a state of only saying South Africa has good laws and policies. But the problem is implementation, which by implication may question the impact the policies have in changing people's lives. It's important to have institutions such as State South Africa because data is important in the work of monitoring and evaluation of services delivered to society. And I quote from the World That Counts, United Nations 2014, data are the lifeblood of decision-making and the raw material for accountability. Without high-quality data providing the right information on the right things at the right time, designing, monitoring, and evaluating effective policies becomes almost impossible. The South African government has recently launched a district-based model for development. And this new district-based model of development and service delivery has been launched as a key intervention for service delivery, with the intention to integrate planning for cooperative governance with the aim to create a new integrated district-based service delivery approach aimed at fast-tracking service delivery and ensure that municipalities are adequately supported and resourced to carry out their mandate. The implementation of this model requires statistical information to inform the district development model, and there's a need for the current measurement agenda of State South Africa to reflect in DDM such that the impact of DDM is positively felt and continuously improved. Honorable House Chair, this will help the government in constructing a constitutional democracy and build institutions that have the capacity to broaden access to services. This will also help addressing the triple challenge of poverty, inequality, and unemployment. State South Africa also helps government pave the way to undoing the structural pillars of apartheid which produced multi-generational impoverished of Black communities. State South Africa helped to merge data to deal with segregation, exclusion, discrimination, oppression, and sidelining of our people, thus shaping our government and private sector programs. There is a huge role to be played by State South Africa in terms of planning, budgeting, and prioritization in South Africa. Key amongst crucial things is to advance the increase in the use of data in all the departments and different spheres of government to help identify priorities and to plan and to budget. Take, for example, the matter of women's socioeconomic empowerment. It is a matter that is of crucial importance in South Africa. Women's socioeconomic empowerment and the promotion of gender equality is part of the urgent key matters of government priorities in its developmental agenda. State South Africa, in partnership with the Department of Women, Youth and People with Disabilities, the World Bank, and other stakeholders, are embarking on a focused study to develop the Disability Inequality Index and research the possibility of running a disability survey. State South Africa outputs will take into consideration these societal changes by timely providing decision makers with relevant data, enabling them to introduce and deploy public service programs that will improve the lives of South African citizens. These types of initiatives should serve as a catalyst on how government should transform its planning, budgeting, and prioritization through the use of State South Africa as an instrumental agency in guiding data-driven planning. Gender budgeting is a critical aspect to address the level of gender inequality and in our society. The increase in environmental risk globally is also a cause for concern, and Stats South Africa has a role to play in the South African context to help the government in issues relating to urban planning and disaster management. The role of environmental statistics is evidently important for the nation and global policy agendas, as it influences the measurement of the well-being of citizens, and it can also advance future planning. Many of the ways to consider reviving environmental statistics, being part of statistics due to the fact that the natural disasters are a challenge facing the country and a continuous risk, is to bring back and strengthening Stats South Africa Compendium of Economic Environmental Accounts, which was discontinued in 2016-17 due to financial constraints. Honorable House Chair, many national statistic officers and other statistic agencies across the globe have considered various initiatives and innovations to respond to many opportunities and threats that digital and data revolutions have. These trends in the statistics sector include the need to explore alternative data sources, including private sector data through partnerships with old and new entrants in the data ecosystem. And we must harvest big data and build cutting-edge capabilities. Stats South Africa has some opportunities to explore in this regard, such as implementing the amendment of the Statistics Act and clearly outlining its strategic intent to build partnerships in the data ecosystem. The South African government should see these opportunities and unlock them for Stats South Africa through legislation to mitigate battles between those who believe in public knowledge and those who will be profiting from this integration. The management of public and private interests is crucial. In conclusion, Honorable Chair, many opportunities can be unlocked through the use of data. Enormous opportunities for citizens, businesses, and government can be better leveraged because of informed decisions and innovation that can be data-driven. The case of South Africa data can help us recover and strengthen our economic potential and areas of social impact. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member. I now call upon Honourable Magluwe.
Chairperson, ignorance of statistical information results in policy and planning failures. Be that as it may, Stats has many customs. In this particular case, it advanced government not only to make good decisions for its citizens, but also to deal with issues of uncertainty. Stats has become an integral part of almost all spheres of modern life. No modern government can conduct its normal functions and deliver its service delivery and implement its development agenda without relying on good and credible stats. Program 3 is allocated a budget of 291 million for the 2024 financial year and provide us with stats on where people live, their conditions, what jobs they do, domestic tourism, transport, education, and gender. Stats further expose and helps explain the facts that characterize our population, society, economy, health, education, environment, and the nation as a whole. Stats gives us a benchmark of the real state of South Africa. Our state of the nation is characterized by poor planning, poor decision making, and government who fail to prioritize stats according to its importance. Stats South Africa can be seen as a command and as one of the major information tools, but sometimes seems overlooked when it comes to budgeting. The living standards of South Africans have worsened by the day through a high unemployment rate, poor service delivery, unsafe cities, high cases of gender-based violence, poverty, inequality, corruption, and more than 120 days of load shedding in 2023. Signs of load shedding appeared as early as 2004 under former President Thabo Mbeki. This was worsened by the ignoring of statistics regarding the planning around the increase in population, urbanization, and maintenance of aging infrastructure on energy power plants. This all landed on deaf ears. We also see Minister Gordon now appealing against the recent High Court judgment on load shedding, but Minister Gordon should be reminded that he was part of a governing party when all these statistics were ignored. Currently, indicators show that State South Africa, which is a well-performing department, has over the years experienced budget shortfalls regarding compensation and employees. If these signs of budget shortfalls are ignored, State South Africa will start to collapse just as we've seen with Eskom, whereby it is unable to produce quality, credible, and reliable statistics for the country and the international community. There's a high turnover rate in the institution due to the department being unable to retain specialized scarce skills, employees which are difficult to get, such as statisticians and mathematicians. As much as we understood, Chairperson, the concept of a limited resources and other challenges that we as a government have, this government should not allow Stats SA to be destroyed through an inadequate budget allocation. The overall budget for the previous year was 2.69 million, which is a decrease of an approximately 11.14% as compared to the 2.9 billion allocated in the previous year. This means that poor State South Africa must do more with less. According to Cabinet decision pronouncements of 20 October 2022, Minister, the then Minister of Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation has made announcements that Cabinet approved the submission to Parliament of the Statistic Amendment Bill of 2022 for further processing. The amendments provide for the development, very important, and implementation of the national statistics system that support, and this is important, that support evidence-based decisions. Minister Ntshavheni, where is the Statistics Amendment Bill? The bill is long overdue, since the 5th Parliament already. Where is the urgency of this government? The Democratic Alliance are now considering tabling its own private members' bill, Stats Bill, before the end of the 6th term, should this government not wake up and smell the coffee. We welcome the transition from paper to digital business, a new way of conducting business in most developing countries. This transition will reduce unwanted offices accommodation in the country, since the technology allows hybrid working models. We should also consider reduction of redundant staff who might not be needed in the new business model as a way of managing the wage bill. To avoid retrenchments, redundant staff members should be redeployed to those departments in need of capacity. Savings through office accommodation should be used towards the funding of critical positions of Stats SA, which currently has a 19.7% vacancy rate as at 31 December 2022. Ek dank u.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. I now call upon the Honorable Malumani.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Greetings to Honorable Minister, Deputy Minister Morolong, Deputy Minister Motaung, the Deputy Chief Whip, Office of the Stats SA, honorable members that are present, and to all South Africans. Data-driven analysis is critical for planning for effective and efficient government, which is able to be highly responsive and profound with planning and budgeting for short, medium, and long-term goals. planning plays an imperative role for government to achieving its goals. One key element government uses is evidence-based planning. Evidence-based planning is used for gathering and evaluating data and evidence to understand the current situation, identifying and analyzing potential solutions, and selecting the best course of action based on the available evidence. By using evidence to inform decision-making, policymakers, planners, and implementers can identify the most pressing social and economic challenges, determine the most effective solution, evaluate the impact of policies and programs, and enhance accountability and transparency. Planning is a pivotal factor in our governance system. The ANC in the 2019 manifesto highlighted that we needed to strengthen and consolidate efforts to digitalize government, utilize big data in planning and execution, and expedite the implementation of e-governance so that citizens can access public services from any location as they become connected, well as strengthening the coordination of intergovernmental relations and planning, and be more proactive in mediating and resolving problems, including between district and local municipalities. Honorable Denner or Dina, sorry for the wrong pronunciation. You usually speak about the issues of policies of the ANC that is implementing policies, is delaying in implementing policies. If you want to implement policies in government, you must go outside and campaign and win the election so that you can implement your own policies that you want. The ANC, when it's implementing its policies, is because it has campaigned and the people of South Africa have voted the ANC to implement its policies. Statistics South Africa plays a critical role in planning and service delivery initiatives in South Africa by providing accurate, reliable, and timely data that informs decision-making process in government and other sectors. As the National Statistical Agency, Stats SA collects data analysis, and disseminates it as an information. This process is based on various aspects of South African economy and society. The data and statistics provided by Stats SA are used by government department, state-owned entities, business researchers, civil society, organizations, and the general public to understand and monitor the country's socio-economic conditions and to inform policy making and service delivery initiatives. Some of the key areas where Stats SA data is used are economic planning and development, social planning and development, infrastructure planning and development, demographic and population planning. In economic planning and development, Stats SA provides data on the country's economic performance, including gross domestic product, employment, inflation, and trade. This information is used by the public and private sector to inform economic policies and investment decisions. The information is used by government to plan, budget, and implement infrastructure development projects. And in demographic and population planning, data provided by Stats SA pertaining to our country population include factors such as age, gender, race, and migration patterns. This is used by the government to plan and implement population-based initiatives, such as healthcare, education, and educational programs. This district development model is a program that was created for development planning and implementation in South Africa that seeks to improve service delivery, economic growth, and job creation in local areas. The State of the Nation Address speech of 2019 identified the difficulty of monitoring and oversight in government. It highlighted that this was highly attributed to a pattern of departments in the three spheres of government operating in isolation, which caused a lack of coherence in planning, budgeting, and implementation. As a result, there had been less of an impact on the triple challenge of the poverty, inequality, and employment. And less this has also resulted in poor service delivery in some areas. The development of statistical indicators focusing on the DTM will help track progress, identify challenges, and measure the impact of the model on local communities. Some statistical indicators
that were developed for the DDM are concerning infrastructure development, job creation, service delivery, economic growth, and social development. Funding is essential for the success and growth of any institution. The budget is used to cover the cost of infrastructure, research, staff salaries, data collection, and processing. Funding to Stats SA has been a challenge which should be addressed, as this has reduced the capacity of the entity to optimally execute its mandate and increase its offering. I believe, Minister, we are hearing this, that as ANC was also speaking about the issue of the budget. In the 2022 budget presented by the Minister of Finance, government stopped the cycle of reduction of Stats SA and provided funds to the income and expenditure survey, which Stats SA advanced, as well as some monies for filling essential position. Moreover, the recruiting and promotion restrictions have been relaxed, allowing Stats SA to fill acting roles with highly trained professionals. We implore and concur with Stats SA that more funding is required for employees, surveys with larger sample sizes, and most importantly, for the collection of reliable local government level data for the DDM. However, we believe that the tide has reversed, and we are hopeful that as we recover from the catastrophic of COVID-19 pandemic, we anticipate that moving towards, we should be able to produce a renewed and fruitful partnership. Honorable Command, I'm very, very, very surprised and disappointed by you when you said here, telling the people of South Africa that you reject the budget. But if the people of South Africa have listened to you in the portfolio committee, you've adopted that budget. So it won't be correct. So when we are here in the plenary, you speak contrary to what you've said in the budget, in the policy. So that's, I'm very, very disappointed. The other thing, the other matter, Comrade Command, Honorable Command, is that the appointment of SG, when the president appoints the SG, it is prescribed that the appointment is for 5 years, but it can be renewed. When you come here, you speak about Upali to say he resigns because of the ANC interference and whatsoever. It's not because of those things. That's not true, Honorable. You must speak the truth. You must be honorable when we are here. When we are standing here, you must be honorable as an honorable man. I just want to teach you to say the prescribed is that 5 years. And if it is renewed, it is up to the committee and the president. The other matter that I want to speak about is that we really appreciate the IFP for supporting the budget. They've done as they've done in the committee. But the DA, when they come and speak here and wanted to shine, because now they know that it's time for campaign, this is not the podium to use for campaign. Let's go outside and convince members to vote for us, for all of us. But we know that the ANC leads, the ANC leaves. The ANC support the budget. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. And now call upon the Honorable Minister in the Presidency.
Thank you, Honorable House Chair. Honorable House Chair, I'd like to first appreciate the open acknowledgement by the opposition parties, with no exception, even the ones who are politicking, about the sterling work of Statistics South Africa and the confidence expressed and the confidence expressed on its statistical releases and reports. Because that is important, that we maintain the credibility of both the institution and the national statistical system. At least we agreed it's one thing that we can be proud of as South Africans. Honorable Telisom Gweba, the chair of the Portfolio Committee. The challenges, the acting chairperson of the Portfolio Committee. The challenges of energy security on the country does not.
Order, please, honorable member. Order. Honorable member. Order, please. Honorable members. Order, please. Thank you. Honorable Minister, you may continue. Members. Honorable members, could you please have order now?
I am tempted to withdraw my appreciation. Honorable Telisom Gweba, the acting chairperson of the Portfolio Committee, the challenges of energy security in the country do not erase the fact that 84% of South Africans have access to electricity compared to 14% in 1994. And we must never refrain to acknowledge the progress we have made whilst we acknowledge the challenges facing us. And you are correct that the energy security challenges are being addressed, and we'll come to the full house and explain those challenges and the progress we are making to address them. They say it's always darkest before it becomes dawn. Honorable North Nahel has explained or has dealt with the issues that were being raised by Honorable Ehlengwa around women empowerment and challenge and women discrimination in this country. And she explained how the use of statistics have been directed in dealing and introducing women's socioeconomic empowerment programs, and also dealing with gender-based violence, but also as a ruling party, making sure that half of our representation in this house are women, and no other party can challenge us to that fact. It's as if I knew when I quoted the famous poet Andrew Lang that the most people use statistics like a drunk man uses a lamppost, more for support rather than elimination. Honorable Mbele, the American writer Rex Stewart once said, there are two kinds of statistics. The kind you look up and the kind you make up. We are on the ones you look up. But unfortunately, yours on the performance of the Western Cape government are the kind you make up. Yes, the Western Cape government has created most jobs in the fourth quarter of 2022. However, the provinces of Eastern Cape, Northern Cape, and Northwest equally created jobs in 2022, the fourth quarter. And that cannot be changed. And it is not separation or separate development where Kaya Lisha, Delft, Philippi, Langa, Nyanga, Guguletu remain unequal in a province where it's a South Africa of equal people, 29 years after our democracy. Whilst the funding of the Statistic SA remains a challenge, National Treasury allocated in the 2021-22 budget 40 million for the Stats SA to fill vacancies. And we have prioritized 120 vacancies and that are being filled. And those that are being filled have been prioritized. We know the impact of the inflation on jobs and on salaries. And we continue to engage with National Treasury through the budget process so that they can make the allocations. And part of the work of the vision, the new vision of Stats SA to digitalize statistics in the country and to introduce interconnected system and reliance on other statistical sources in the country means that they will be saving in the MTF and will do that. Those ones that become redundant because of the change in business operating model will then be declared redundant and those vacancies not filled, and we fill the ones that we require because let's say is preparing itself for a digital economy. I thought when we come to the Honorable House, we all come with prepared speeches. And when we come with those prepared speeches, we have also as honorable members a responsibility to listen to what is being presented because that's why it's a debate. And respond to the facts presented and not stick to the rhetoric of once assumed was going to be presented. In this budget vote speech, I presented two things that are going to be done. I presented about us ready to submit the amendment, the draft amendment bill for the Statistics SA Act number 6 of 1999 in this very house. So I do not know why the Democratic Alliance will be ready to table its own draft amendment bill. Because we have mentioned that we are ready to bring it to the table here. So the problem that we have is that we deal with a term of office, and this is the 6th parliament. And I don't know whether when we're in the 6th parliament, I must then be taken to the 5th and the 4th and the 3rd and the 2nd, the 1st parliament when I was not there. Some of those parliaments, I was still a child. So I'm here, I'm saying this is what we're going to do and hold us to account in the financial year that we are proposing to table this, to say, have we tabled, have we failed to table? And this is what we committed to do without any probing. We didn't respond to your issue. We tabled it upfront to say we're going to bring it forward.
Order, honorable members. Honorable members. Order, please. Honorable Minister, you may continue.
Honorable House Chair, I also thought in my tabling of the Statistics SA budget vote, we indicated this strategy and the vision of Stats SA. And we even articulated the 4 outcomes that we're seeking to achieve. And in part of the statement, we said, we are going to realize savings in the long term in this very house. And the savings in the long term means the adjustments of the budget as they come through will then also, what members are complaining about that is degrading, will also be factored in. The fact that we have come in and said we have challenges, it doesn't mean we're not making mechanisms to make it perform. We have come to this house. We equally came to this house and said, we are going to table the results of census 2022 in this particular period. Here in this very house. But what is more interesting, I'll have to be reminded of her name. I was so shocked that what we tabled, that we are bringing in this house, and it has been funded. We are being accused not having done it. Because those of us who know in terms of performance will know that as much as we have had challenges, when we correct, we must be given an acknowledgement. If we came in this house and tabled without, and I'm going to read, without anyone provoking us, I said, on the income and expenditure survey, I am pleased to inform the House that Stats SA has received funding allocation to conduct an income and expenditure survey that collects data on the poverty situation in this country. The survey will be completed in 2023-24 financial year, in particular, November 2023, and the results set to be published in 2024. I will not understand why we were ranting and raving about that income expenditure survey when we didn't say we were going to do it. We also gave you a timeline to hold us accountable because we do not believe in open-ended undertakings. We believe in performance that is measurable, that is time-bound, that we can all hold each other to. And that's our basis of accountability. And Honorable Klengo, as I conclude, my first language is not English. But I would have claimed to have gone to schools where I learned English as a first language. And I passed very well. I've also gone to universities that the language of instruction was English as a first language. Actually, the only language where I graduated lastly, they spoke only English. So maybe we must go and look at the Oxford Dictionary about war and conflict. But I know what you're trying to insinuate around this, the Ukraine war. The position of South Africa remains the same, that we are non-aligned on the conflict of Ukraine and Russia. We have now, for the privilege of this House, started to initiate dialogue so that we can mediate on that conflict, because our role in mediation is acknowledged globally. And you cannot do that when you have taken sides. And you'll be amazed when we make the necessary announcement who invited us to mediate the conflict between Russia and Ukraine. But let me inform you about other things. The very US who have imposed unilateral sanctions on Russia have nudged us to say South Africa engage with Russia to come to the table. And that would not have been possible if we have taken sides. A mediator, it's a person who is credible in terms of their independence of view on a particular conflict, because then you become objective and not subjective. But in any case, today we are dealing with statistics. I don't want to go to lies, damn lies. I'm sticking on statistics. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. Honorable members, that concludes the debate and the business of this mini plenary session. The mini plenary will now rise.